We have Professor R Govinda, who will be giving us an overview of the education sector in India. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Professor Govinda, but I'll just give you another brief introduction. Professor Govinda is Vice Chancellor of National University of Educational Planning and Administration, New Delhi. Previously, he has worked in the Institute of Education, University of London, MS University of Baroda, and International Institute of Educational Planning, UNESCO. He is a member of several national and international bodies, and he has also been on the editorial board of the Global Monitoring Report for Education for All. He has published in several journals, and he has also published many books, the most recent being Who Goes to School? Exploring Exclusion in Indian Education. So now I request Professor Govinda.
I realize it's a big challenge. I do not know what exactly to speak. I have prepared something. I was told that I should speak on the title it was given was Overview, History, and Challenges. I don't know how all the three can be combined for a huge country like ours. The education sector is so large. I have prepared something which in my view helps me to really present before you. I don't know how much of overview, but definitely of the challenges. I do assume that you already know the history. I am not going to touch too much on the history, although I will, as I speak, I will try to elaborate on the changes that have happened in the education sector, but focus much more on the challenges that we face today. Contemporary challenges of Indian school education. And in the second part of my presentation, I will try to highlight some of the issues in my view which are very critical for teacher education, since they are all teacher educators. What really confronts teacher education in the Indian context. I will try to highlight some of them in the second part. It's a bit long presentation, so I need your patience. I will take about an hour. If you agree. Afterwards we can have discussion. Will that be okay? Just to begin, why I given a subtitle called Changing Contours, Rising Expectations and Emerging Challenges is that I do believe that education, not just in India, all over the world is facing a major challenge in terms of the changes that are happening within the education sector, and the expectations from the education sector is also changing. It's not just in India, all over the world people are really concerned about what schools are doing or not doing and what ought to happen in the schools. It's not new. That's why I have given a very broad one. I try to combine our international, what is happening in the international sphere which impinges on Indian education as well, and some of the things which are very unique to Indian context. I will try to combine and then place before you. What is the current state of Indian education in India? Where we have reached today? That is my first point that I want to present. If we if we go back in as we got independence and started setting up a system of school education, or today, there is not much difference in terms of what we kept as our vision. We always talked of we want to expand our school education. When we began, we said that with only 16% literacy rate and not even 1 out of 4 children in the school, our major focus was on expansion, which continued and picked up speed, much greater speed in the last 2 decades, and therefore expansion continues in one way or the other. Still the secondary education, there is a long way to go. So expansion continues, but we are talking all the time with quality and equity. Equity is something that we swear by. I just want to really, I am saying these things because I think we need to really examine these things, because these are not just things to be said in an ideal condition and then said and then forgotten probably. We all have to be concerned in school education on all the 3 things: expand, quality and equity, which actually will hold the future for our children. Where are we with respect to? It's not an old story. Even if you talk of the 12th plan, although here what is presented is extracted from the chapter on higher education, but it is not very different for school education either. Even today we talk of the same thing. That's what I wanted to tell you. It is expansion, equity, excellence. This is what 12th 5-year plan talks also. So that seems to be our keywords, which we have been talking for the last 65 years in fact. It's not today's thing. And we continue to talk even in the 12th 5-year plan. Expansion, equity and excellence is what we are talking about, which is what I said. Where are we? How are we really doing with respect to this? School education, if you look at, for me these three pictures that I am presenting you symbolizes where we are. We have at the one end schools which are so well equipped, you can really see. I'm not talking of even of a private school, I'm talking government schools itself. You can see a school which is so well equipped with all students having facilities of every kind. Then you have a school which is in a migratory camp where children are gathered together to get some learning at least. And you have the last one which symbolizes there are many children who are still outside. This is the reality of school education, what we have been able to do in terms of expanding and reaching out to all children. Our goal is universal education for all, and not only elementary education, which is guaranteed by Right to Education Act now, but we are talking in terms of universal secondary education also now, with or without as a fundamental right. We are talking because the Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan talks about universal secondary education also. In fact, in 2005 the CABE adopted a resolution saying that we should have universal secondary education. So this is our goal, and in a way it presents the three situations, three extreme situations in which our school education seems to be moving with and moving in. It's not very easy. Providing education for all, which is an international commitment that we have made, EFA goals, and it is also a national commitment, a very old commitment that we have made. Where are we? If you ask, it's not very easy. Huge challenges, because beginning from where we were, when 16% literacy rate and less than 25% enrollment that we had, you should look at the number of children, school going age children who were there in 1950, and today the number of school going age children that we are talking. Just in the 1 to 8th grade, if you are talking, that is the elementary education stage, the total number of children to be covered is mind-boggling. It's about 200 million children that we are talking. Creating an education system for 200 million children with the qualities of what is said as excellence and equity, I think it's a huge challenge that we have. Not a very easy one. 200 million is larger than the total population of many countries in this world. In fact, that's the kind of thing that we are talking about. And that too, India is so widely diverse. Such kind of diversity probably you will not find anywhere. The kind of diversity across the country that you find from one end to another in terms of culture, religion, language. When although we talk of one school system, in reality we do not have one school system in this country. We have so many school systems as many states are there, because the schools are actually created and managed by the state governments, and states have their own languages. Textbooks are printed in their own languages. Curriculum is made by every state. So it's not one system even. We are talking of such diverse, multiple systems of education. That's what we are talking. When we say quality and equity, excellence and all this word that we talk, it has to carry a much different meaning than traditionally what one would understand in a way, considering the size and the variety that we have. I just thought that I will place before you what we have been doing in all these years very quickly. Many people think that we are not spending enough. I don't know how you feel, but I also feel that we are not spending enough. But if you look at the curve in terms of what we have been spending, it is continuously raising so fast. In fact, it is what is presented here in terms of 2001-2, from there 2002-3 into 2011-12. If you look at just in the last 10 years, the expenditure, per pupil expenditure has risen enormously. So if somebody says that you are not adequately spending, maybe, but we are not spending at all, I think the spending is increasing, expenditure is increasing. This is the condition that we are, but maybe still we feel that it's not, because if we About the achievement, if you look at the change that has come, I am not going to go into all the indicators. I am only taking 2 or 3 indicators of where we were and where we are now and where are we moving. If we look back into where we were around say 20 years ago, 1994, look at the girls and boys where we were and how they were divergent, and what is happening over a period of time is very significant. I find this most significant because when I began teaching about the educational planning some 28 years ago, one of the things that struck me at that time in 1980s when I was teaching was that the two lines, boys and girls enrollment lines, were divergent. They were moving in opposite directions. In fact, they were not moving converging at all. They were divergent still, and gradually it became parallel. Today you do find that the enrollment is converging. Not enough. Still there is a difference. We should remember, and there is no reason why there should be a difference, one may ask, because we swear by equity. As I always say, gender equity is one of the important things, and then why it should have been there even after so many years is a question that we should ask ourselves. But nevertheless, this very idea that which was so divergent is now converging, I think shows the trend in which we have changed over the period of time. It's not about whether we are happy or not. Question is that, is it time to celebrate all this achievement that we have done? Very often government always is in a celebratory mood, whatever is achieved, but the state can celebrate. But as education people, observers of education, is it time to celebrate? I feel that it's not a time to celebrate. I think there is a very, very long way to go in terms of where we should be, where we would like to be when we talk of education for all with equity and quality. If you underline that, I think there is a very long way to go, and it's not. We have made very large strides. Considerable investment has been made, no question about that. Increasing investment that we are making over a period of time, particularly during the last 20 years, the kind of expansion that has happened, where we were around in 1990, if you looked at, we were only around 1.86 lakh schools, or about 2 lakh schools were there. Today we have something like 1.3 million schools, 13 lakh schools. That's what we are talking. It's the number that has increased. The reaching out to all children is enormous that has happened. But yet, even though we have come a long way, we are still far not good enough to achieve what we talk of quality and to overcome inequalities within the system that is there. This in a way summarizes for me the critical issues, that where we are placed, what is it that we should really look for in our system as we go ahead today after traversing so long. Many people say, why are we like this? Why is it that still so many children are outside? Why so many children drop out? I am not going to deal with all those issues. Why so many children don't enter the school? Why so many children get into grade 1 but afterwards they drop out? Many people say it is poverty. I don't know how you look at it. We can debate on that. But one thing that you should observe today is that unlike 25 years ago, people told me when I was studying 35-40 years ago, when I entered B.Ed, my teachers told me that the tragedy of this country is that there are schools everywhere, but the parents don't have the value for education and they don't understand the value. They don't send their children to school. And why? These are poor children who don't understand what is the value of education. This is what was said. But today it's not so. Even today, even the poorest of the poor are ready to send their children, even sacrificing basic comforts. This is a reality. This is not the old thing that we are talking. Today it is a reality that every parent, the poorest of the poor, also wants education for their children, because they see that that is the only way that we can really move ahead. No, this change that has come, I think, is a very significant change that has come, which 20 years ago we would not have said. Today, for various reasons, maybe media, the kind of communication facility that we have, people do see what changes have come in the world outside, and they do see that who are the people who are benefiting from this, the development that have happened. Whatever may be the reason, even the poorest of the poor wants education. So this point that is often made, by many economists even now. I'm not saying that the poverty doesn't affect. Poverty may not be the one that is holding back by itself. There may be many other concomitant factors which may be holding back. We are not understanding those things, and we are only telling. This is important because in the RTE, Right to Education Act says the onus is on the state to overcome all the barriers, social and economic barriers, to ensure that all children compulsorily attend the school. The state has the onus, and therefore this understanding that poverty should not be held as a proxy, as a bogey for children not attending, is a very important one. I just want to take you through why I am saying this. Is that I don't know how many of you have read Sainath's book, P. Sainath's book on Everybody Loves a Good Route. If you have not read, I would advise all of you. It's like it reads more like a novel. I think you should all take and then read that. I want you to read what is written there. This is about a very remote village in Orissa, where he was, because all his travels were to the most backward blocks of the country. And this is in Orissa, where it is written, and it says it's about a villager called Pangi, a tribal, and it says the coolie work he does when there is work to do fetches Pangi perhaps 2 kilograms of rice for a day's labor. Pangi and his family also collect roots, berries, leaves and bamboo shoots. These make up the bulk of their diet on some days. Our time has gone, says his friend Anandram Kilo, but perhaps one day our children, if they get an education, will lead a better life than this. I think it summarizes in a way the sentiments of the poor today. Poor are not saying that education we don't want. They all want education for their children. They are ready to sacrifice their basic comfort and even then go for education. I'm saying this, put this statement of a villager in the right perspective in the context of quality and equity that we are talking about. I want you to read one more statement which I came across while doing some work in Karnataka a few years ago. And this is a girl. That's not the same girl. I have just put a picture there, but very much similar to the girl that I saw. I am happy at least my brother is able to go to school. I wish I could also go. I cannot blame my parents. They are already sacrificing so much for us, working day and night in spite of poor health. I will anyway get married and go away. If my brother studies, he can help in improving the life of my parents. I think it again summarizes. You are talking of equity, quality, where are we, what is happening to our girls, and what do they think, how do people think, the poor people think. Now why I am saying this in so forcefully placing before you is that it's very important that we jettison this idea that the poor don't understand the value of education, they don't want to come to education. If education is facing a problem, it's a problem of a different kind. That if people are not in the school because they want. Today 98% children are enrolled in the school. That's what the government data says, that more than 98% are enrolled in the school. And but how many stay in the school? You know that only 70 of them stay in the school by the time they come to 5th grade. And only 50 of them they stay by the time they come to 8th grade. Now 50% have dropped out. Now on an average about 60% on an average across the country is the 10th grade examination result. Am I right? So another 40% of this 50 has dropped out. They are out of the school system, and we know higher secondary will eliminate another 40 of them. How many really remain to get any education beyond that? I think this is a telling story we need to really look at when we are talking about this, that are we holding something in the name of poverty, not really giving to what is their right? I think we need to really think. This is one very important issue I want to place before you. Another, which is again we keep debating upon in this country, is that it's always a dilemma for many children in this country, to earn or to learn. For I and you, for our families it is not. For our children it is not. But still for a very large section of population, when you say that there are only 70 of them, they stay back to complete 5 and another 20 of them drop out before reaching the grade 8, what happens to those 50% children? Where are those 50 out of 100 children? They are in the world of work. So it is a constant dilemma for people, for children, to earn or to learn. And we have been talking for many years about child labor. There are people like Professor Shanta Sinha from MV Foundation who say that every child who is in the labor means that every child who is out of school means that they are working, which is true. In fact, nobody stays quiet. They must be earning and then contributing to the family or for themselves. You know, we can come across so many children in urban areas. Look at the pictures that are there. They are all of child laborers. Look at their age and size, where they are, what kind of thing. These are all the real pictures of today. They are not the old ones. This is the reality of this country that we are having. Still a very large number. As I said, 50% who are dropping out without completing a standard. They are all part of this group that we are talking, which is not small. We are talking of 200 million children in the age group. When so many children drop out, what is happening? They all end up in one of these places, in fact. This is the kind of thing. What are we doing with them when we are talking about? This is another serious issue that we should really look at. Why is our school not, the question is to our school, posing to our school. Why is it that our schools are not capable of holding back the children? Why are these children running away from the school and entering the world of work instead of being in the school? What is wrong with our schools? Nothing is wrong with the children. It is not it's not something wrong with the children. What is wrong with our schools? Why are they not delivering? Why are they not holding back? If they were delivering, children would have been there. If the schools were, as often we talk about child-friendly schools, or various names are given in India, Anandadayi Shiksha, Anandamayi Shiksha. These are all very good slogans that we have been talking. If all this was happening, why were the children running away from the school and getting into these difficult conditions of work life? I think it's something seriously we should think of. What is happening in our schools? Why is it not capable of holding back children and studying? In fact, the National Sample Survey Organization studies analysis that has been done, surveys that have been done, if you can come across, you can see since beginning from 1984, several rounds of cycles of surveys have been done, and they have analyzed the reasons for children either not entering, what they call never enrolled children, or dropping out. What are the reasons? Very large proportion of children have given the reason that 2-3 reasons that the school doesn't interest them, and the school they can't adjust to the school, or they like this. I don't remember. The categories are all related to school factors, in fact, and in my view, at least about 30-40% children would not have really dropped out at all if only the schools were better. If you collate all those reasons that many studies have shown, they all point to school factors. This again, I want to bring out one more thing again relating to quality and equity that we are talking. What I am presenting here refers to both quality and equity, in fact, because I want to say that good quality education, as one of the global monitoring reports said, that the final test of quality lies in equity. That a school which does not really ensure the access and good quality education to all children cannot be a good quality school at all. This is what the global monitoring report said in their one of the volumes on quality, which was I think 2004 or so. The volume said that. So quality and equity, if we really separate, I don't think we are going to achieve anything, because we know that achieving quality for only 5% or 10% or even 20% of the children is not going to solve that is not the real problem of our country. The real problem is the 80% who go to government schools, and of them 50% who drop out without getting even the compulsory education stage. That's where the real real issue lies. And therefore, looking at quality and equity, the point is that when we say equal provision, fair provision, access to right to education of equal quality is what we are writing. How can it be? How can we really achieve that kind of quality if we create ourselves unequal schools and the provisions are unequal? Why I am saying unequal schools, unequal school, I don't know whether it's a concept that exists or not, except that I came across when I was searching for these unequal schools, I came across this phrase with respect to a court case in California, the famous Brown and California state case, which talks of the unequal schools. In fact, this is in that context, when I was reading the literature, I came across unequal schools. I call, because you look at these 6, they are all government schools in a very small area that we have taken. We were doing some work in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. So within a small radius, we have taken only from government schools. Look at the 6 figures that I have given here. You have the one on the top left hand corner, which has adequate space for everyone. Children are sitting there. Well, you can see that they are well dressed, and then with good benches, studying, listening to, that is the kind of thing. But you look at the right hand last that you have here in this corner. What is that? That is where there is a classroom where all the rations are also stored, and that is the place. There is no flooring of any kind, and a blackboard in one corner, and a few children scattered around sitting there. This is also a school. That's the only thing that is happening in the school. This is not a picture of a classroom. This is the picture of a school. This is all that exists in the name of a school. There, you see the range from there. If you go 1, 2, 3 on the top, and then 1, 2, 3 on this bottom, left to right, you will understand the variety that we are talking. Can we think of quality and equity when our own provisions of government provisions are so unequal? So my proposition is that the most important thing, if we want to achieve quality and equity, we have to be fair in what we provide. What we do in a bigger village, bigger place, and better facilities, everything we provide with more number of teachers. But you go to a smaller place, you find that the children do not get any facility. This is just the opposite of what would happen in France or UK. Single teachers you will find in France also, but the single teacher schools are so well equipped that you cannot imagine, because they compensate for all the problem that we will have, all the difficulty that would be there with a single teacher teaching, because after all, small habitations are reality all over the world. It's not just only in India. Small habitations would mean if there is no way that you can really get them anywhere else, you have to provide a school for them, small children. These are schools starting from what they call what is that magnet schools equivalent that we have. Not Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya is another kind of schools. There is one, which are only gifted children are there. 2 ordinary municipal schools where teacher is there or is not there, even if they may not come, and even if they come, they may not teach. These are indifferent kind of thing. Government itself has created. Do we really have to go for that kind of situation to really achieve universal elementary education in this country? I think we need to ask a question. I am not focusing too much on secondary education, because we are not really doing the basic. The problem with secondary education is that if we promote children in this fashion, and we cannot expect secondary schools to be any different and really achieve anything better. Secondary schools are no different, I tell you. I was looking at recently the database in one of the states, and I found that there are higher secondary schools with 1 teacher. Higher secondary school with only 1 teacher. Higher secondary school requires specialized teaching. This is the reality. Secondary schools with only 1 teacher or 2 teachers, where you need specialized teaching. So this is another point that I want to place before you. Another point that I want to say is that all this that we are talking about equal rights, but is the school system, is the education system within its framework addressing the issue of social inequalities and social attitudes? I want you to see 2 pictures that are given. The lower one is self-obvious. A girl is just across the school. This is a photograph taken just by the side of the school only, and because the water comes only near the school only. She is waiting there to collect water, and the school children also will come and then drink water there only. But this girl is not getting to school, and she is waiting for collecting water. This symbolizes in a way the gender inequality that is there and what we are talking, and we are talking of equal rights. Why? Because girls will have to stay back and then really do this. This is the social attitude that I am talking. But that's not the full story. See the other story. I don't know if you are perceptive, and if you have gone to many rural schools, you would understand what I am showing there. This is the midday meal that is being served, and the children on this side closer to us are children sitting outside on the mud, and the other children are sitting on in the corridor of the school. So you can see the two groups, the children who are made to sit outside on the side, and the children who are sitting inside the school corridor. And that is the kind of social division we have. Even today, we may talk of many things about, great integration and everything. I am sure that, you must all be teaching these things to your teacher trainees who come to you. But in reality, when you go to the school, even now, the social divisions are so clear that the scheduled caste children are made to sit outside. I have personally seen so many cases that is happening. The challenge before us in the school education sector is that schools have to be spaces, inclusive spaces. We all teach in teacher education. Schools has inclusive spaces. We talk of inclusive education. I am sure that all of you must be teaching to your teacher trainees also. But if the school wants to behave in an altogether opposite fashion of discrimination only, where do we go? How do we convert these schools into inclusive spaces? I think is one other big challenge if you want to achieve right to education in that fashion. Thank you. Let me go to another. This is another issue that I want to place before you, since we are talking of quality and equity. We all teach normally. Teacher education institutions are in urban areas, or at least in the district headquarters, sometime in block headquarters, but by and large. So I do not know how many of you get to experience this. If you are in an urban area, big cities, or even in towns these days, what you find is a very common phenomenon of this kind. These pictures actually represents what is happening. Of course, we all say that the government gives the statistics saying that there are only 3 lakh children who are out of school, out of 200 million that we are talking, of the 20 crores that we are talking, only 3 lakhs. That's what 300,000 of 200 million. That is what we are talking. But I only feel that even if we start today, take up a project of counting children on the street corners in this country, there may be more than, according to me, 30 lakhs or 3 lakhs that we are talking. According to me, 30 lakhs. 30 lakhs is what government says. But I think it will be even more than that. But we do not seem to consider them at all. One of the biggest problems in India, which is fast urbanizing, and every day urbanization is happening, and they say that India has one of the fastest growing urban centers. In the South Asia has the largest fast growing urban centers, and India among them is growing very fast. But the problem of urban deprived is something completely forgotten, because they are nowhere children. We don't want them in urban area, but they are there. Therefore, we don't count them even. We don't provide them. We tell them that you should go to the school that is across, and there is a huge big highway that may be passing, because the slum is on this side. And you do not really bother about what happens to them, and the kind of situation that you find is all like this. This is the reality, that the huge number of migrant children, in fact, who are there in the city, in places like the sugar factories and brick kilns and all of them, but we don't seem to bother at all about them. And the real issue, if you are talking about quality and equity, can we achieve without really attending to this? Today, around more than 30% population lives in urban areas. Of them, more than 50% are deprived groups. More than 30%. Count the total population and then count. We are talking of 1.3 billion, 1.25 billion population. And when we say 40%, 35 to 40% are in urban area, the number you imagine. And of them, more than 50 to 60% are deprived groups living in slums and other places. The number is mind-boggling, in fact, and very little. In fact, we may not have even counted how many are there in that category. I'm come to a different area. Let me stop about this, showing you about the real situation with respect to unequal conditions. Where are we with respect to if you look at in terms of the what is this that is there? Yeah. I'm just in one of them. Actually, it's only about secondary and above, and I have broken that into higher education, secondary, middle, primary, and illiterates in the other one. So it's the same, shown with greater finesse in the second one. Why I'm showing is that even now, if you look at the working population, stock of the educated workforce, still the rural area, about 41% are illiterate people in the workforce, because we need to finally, education should be linked with the productivity also, in fact. And this is also another thing that I want to say, because the number of people in the workforce who are secondary educated and higher secondary and college educated, they will also have an impact in terms of the how many are available to become teachers as such, because it is they only who enter. So if the proportion of college education is small, the chances of getting teachers and good quality teachers also to that extent become more difficult, in fact. And it also has a major impact on the productivity of the country. This is where we are after 65 years, where we are if we ask ourselves in terms of what is the percentage of people in rural area who have got college education? Only 2%. Only 2% in rural areas have got college education. Strange, isn't it? Secondary, if you look at 10% in rural areas, and 12% middle school, and 36% only primary, that means only 4th or 5th grade that they have got, and 41% of rural people rural workforce do not have any education, in fact. They are illiterates. This is a huge situation. This, since we are talking of the overview of where we are, despite all these things that we are talking about, today's situation is like this. I just want to, since you are going to US, you should have a look at what is happening in US. What has happened in US between 1940 and this is about 1998. I took this graph from somewhere. Between 1940 and 1998, the kind of change that happened, enormous change that happened. Less than high school at that time was 75%. In 1940 had less than high school qualification in US. Today is a very, very small proportion of only around 20. That means that also we should remember, less than secondary high school doesn't mean that they have not completed high schooling, but they have not got the matriculate certificate. That's what it means. They may have attended, because the compulsory education everybody goes and everybody attends. Maybe they drop out without taking the examination and completing the examination. No, I just give one example to you, but you can really go around and then see if you look at the average what they call school life expectancy, that means the number of years of formal education people have got in the OECD countries. OECD means the industrialized world. If you look at it, is somewhere around 16 and a half years. But what is the average life expectancy in India? Is somewhere around 7 or so. But if we take 25 plus, it is around 9 years, 25 plus. Otherwise it is even less. So why I am saying this is that despite all this investment that we have made, despite all the claims that we make about quantitative expansion that we are talking, since we have not really looked at equity, since we have not looked at reaching everyone reasonably good quality education, but I don't think we are reaping the benefit of what this investment and what this expansion should have given us. That is shown in terms of the average school life expectancy of the people. Quality is at the heart of all these things. I'm not going to present any data on quality, but you all know that there is an annual survey that the Pratham conducts, ASER surveys. Are you all familiar with that? ASER survey. Or more recently, in fact more revealing, is actually the teacher eligibility test. Now you know, all of you know that the Right to Education has made teacher eligibility test compulsory, and if only you have come across what happened with the central teacher eligibility test conducted by CBSE. You know, the people who appear for CBSE conducted test, which is an all India test they conduct, and most of the people, in fact all of them, their aspiration is to join either private English medium schools or Kendriya Vidyalaya schools or Navodaya schools. That's where the CBSE syllabus is working. And so out of you will be shocked to find that out of more than 7 lakhs, 7.9 lakhs or so who appeared for the test, only 92,000 passed the test. What do you mean by passing? What is the test that was given? The test that was given was equivalent to 6th grade, primary 6th grade. And who were the people who are appearing? All of them are graduates, B.Ed. Many of them are postgraduates. Several of them had M.Ed. Shocking, isn't it? So people ask, what are you doing in your teachers' college? Why did you pass them? I think we all have to ask a question to ourselves. People always point out, you know, whenever this is presented. In fact, the following after a year and a half, CBSE conducted again another test, and 2 lakh, little more than 2 lakh teachers appeared. Many of them may be those who failed in the earlier test, quite possible. But you know, that time only 1% passed. Only 1%. I'm not joking. These the data are there. It came in the newspapers. In fact, NUPA, we are trying to analyze the results of the CTET and why it is, who are the people, what is the profile, from which kind of institutions they are coming up. We are trying to analyze those things. The question people ask always that it's a serious matter. It's in fact really alarming to say that, you know, they all would have become teachers if the CTET was not given. Remember, all of them were qualified teachers because they have got a teacher training degree. It also reflects on the teacher training program that we are doing. How do we allow them to really come to us first, allow them to enter? Because I always tell, the biggest crime that we can do to our children is to send a teacher who doesn't know the subject. That is the biggest crime. There can be no bigger crime than that, to punish a child to sit in a classroom. First of all, the child would have been happier playing around, but you first confine the child to the classroom. That is the first crime. And second crime is that, you know, you don't teach anything, because the teacher, you subject them to somebody who doesn't know the subject. And third is that you afterwards you give a test and declare them as fail. So the triple crime against children. You know, I'm saying this, you know, with lot of passion, because it really it should shock all of us, our conscience. What are we doing in this country? That we are producing teachers who cannot really pass a 6th grade examination. And how can they be ever teaching anything? They should not be anywhere close to your college even. But they have been. Many of them may have been, some of them may have come off one of your colleges also, in fact. Now, this is something that we all have to really consider. Quality is something I am not even discussing, because it is such a serious issue. No point in presenting quantitative data on that and then talk about. It's a very fundamental issue that we are talking. I'll just take a few minutes. I will not really deal with this. Take a few minutes in terms of where do we go from here? What should we really do in achieving progress with quality and equality, if we are talking about how do we really move ahead? A few propositions that I want to say. I first of all want to say that, you know, the pedagogy in the schools have to change. I am not for the first time I am telling. So many people have told. This is what the National Curriculum Framework talks about, that we need to very significantly transform the way we teach our children. This is what Kamal Mahindru and others have been telling in Eklavya for many, many years, that the way we are teaching should all be very different. This is not the way we should do. But unfortunately, our schools have not changed. Since you are going for this intensive program, I hope you will really learn new ways of really training our people to pick up new pedagogic techniques. I'm saying this because today, in a larger sense, not only in the traditional sense of teacher education, where we always teach about pedagogy after all, because that's what teacher education is about. Teaching teachers how to teach is our job, in fact, in teacher education. But I'm saying because we are in a very different situation today, where the world is changing so fast that the focus has to be not just on the what Paulo Freire called the banking system of education. Don't bother about this. I can give a copy of this presentation to all of you. That's not an issue. Don't really bother. But I want you to focus on this idea that what Paulo Freire said, that banking system of education is not good. We need to really help children to really question and demand a different kind of learning in which they explore themselves and then learn. In a way, that is what pedagogy of the oppressed. Although he didn't directly refer to small children, he referred much more to the adults. But he really meant that our schools are not really doing well. So what is required today is to really transform the pedagogy completely. We need to really look at very differently. Why this is equally important, particularly important to India, is because of what I just now presented. The diversity that you find, the inequality that you find, children coming from such kind of background that they are coming. To them you give the kind of standardized curriculum in the standardized fashion that you really have the lesson plans which is printed and then distributed and then done. This doesn't seem to really do. We need to help them to really learn rather than only teaching them to some sort of old concepts to be memorized and reproduced. That I think is the onus is on you, how exactly we can do. I still want to take one or two more things, which is the larger globalized context, because in India, we never stop saying, the middle class never stops saying, oh, we are almost reached and we are going to become a developed country. And we will be the superpower. You never stop hearing this on the TV talk shows. And if you say anything else, it will be taken amiss. I still remember in one of the lectures I was giving in too critical. Don't really believe everything that he is telling. Indian education is doing well. This is what he told the audience, in fact. Now, this is the kind of feeling people have. People have high expectations. That's why I put the title Expectations. Expectation is so high. We want to reach heavens tomorrow. But where we are, I think we don't want to really look at, unfortunately. Talking about the 5%, 10% is not enough. If you are talking of transforming school education, we need to look at more fundamentally. The challenge is enormous. Challenge is enormous because the world is changing so fast. The school education setup is changing so fast. And we are not realizing what is happening elsewhere in the whole world. Everybody is questioning the kind of school that we have. I just wanted to say that the way the unprecedented expansion that is happening, the pace in which the knowledge is changing. We all know that our children very often know more than our teachers. It's not unusual. And the children often say, therefore, that why do they go to school? Not just here, elsewhere in the world also. Very often they will say that they go to school, particularly closer to the high stake examination, because they have to get the certificate. But they are actually exploring many other things which are not taught in the school. This is something that is happening, because the knowledge is changing so fast that what you give in the school, by the time they complete schooling and then go to college and enter the world of work, many things have become outdated. And everywhere, what I call the ubiquitous digital signature, you will find, in the sense that computer and information technology has changed so fast. Everything that we talk about, we are not realizing what is happening to our own school. In fact, I just want you to read what people are saying about this. What Jack Attali in this book Millennium says, the impact of information technology will be even more radical than harnessing of steam and electricity in the 19th century. Rather, it will be more akin to the discovery of fire by early ancestors, since it will prepare the way for a revolutionary leap into a new age that will profoundly transform human culture, which I think I and you are already feeling. The cultural change that is happening through social media and various other things, what is happening, and we are just not able to cope with what is happening to small children. Maybe our older children who are in the college probably is not an issue, but the young children who are getting into today, the kind of technology that is in their hand is something that we are not able to fathom. Not just in India, it's everywhere in the world that is happening in that fashion. And because it's changing so fast, and we are not realizing the way it is changing the culture itself, the human culture, how it is happening. In fact, what is happening today, see the graphics that I am presenting from the left hand top corner to what is happening to the left hand below. The way education is happening is also changing. We historically thought school, we prepare our teachers to teach in a school. But school, what it was, is so different. What the industrial revolution produced as a model of a school, which is an age grade matrix, and that means the same age children should be sitting in a group because it is an economic model, is not the same today. It's changing so much gradually, in some places faster, in some places slower, but there is a big question on the monopoly of school, because when I and you, if we had not gone to school, of course even today people, the culturally we are in the same stage in our adult age, because we think even now if somebody has not gone to school, he doesn't fit into, as Michel Foucault says, that is a part of the uniformization process. School has become like a ritual. Everybody has to go to school. But school itself is very undefined today. At least it's going to be more and more undefined as we are. Because if we would have believed that if somebody doesn't go to school, you cannot get education. But today, you can get educated without going to school, because you can acquire knowledge without going to school, and school of the kind that we think. That, I think, is a very important issue to remember. The challenge before teacher educators, particularly for teacher educators, how do we really adapt to the, because you have to prepare the teachers to teach in a school which is far, far away from the kind of school they themselves attended. See, when I became a teacher educator, and I didn't find that much of a, there may be generation gap always in terms of social thinking, but at the same time structurally, as a school, as an institutional structure, there was not much difference between the school I went and the classroom that I went to teach as a teacher. But today, the kind of thing that the children are having in their hands and the kind of classroom that they may enter will be so. He was asked a question that with the restructuring that is happening, with the globalization and modernization that is happening, will the factories change structurally in a very significant way? Somebody asked this question to him, and in an interview, but he said that I do not know, the floor shop may not change very significantly, although the tasks to be performed by the people may change because people will be more multitasking, but the nature itself, the structure may not change by itself, but something else will change. And he said this: indeed, no other institution will face challenges as radical as those that will transform the school. This is what he said. I am saying all these things. We seem to be really moving, we are caught between this modernization on the one hand and such an obscurantist condition in which we teach and then live in many places. How we really bridge this large gap and how do we prepare ourselves is one of the biggest challenges that we have. I don't know, there is another, also I will leave this is what Paulo Freire has said. I will just leave this, I will skip all these things. Some people think that today's learners are different. I do not know. We can really think. Now, what I want to really, 2-3 other points I want to conclude this part is that we are also caught up in many other things in this country. I hope you will really address some of these things, understand how it is being dealt with and addressed, because other parts of the world are also facing this. Today, what is the school? School, do you understand it as a state, as the major provider and major school, the controller of education in this school, regulator of education, or do we consider market as a more influential one? Some people think that market influence is increasing day by day because private schools are expanding very fast, on which the government has, particularly self-financing schools, we have no control at all. Should education be decided more by experts? The state should withdraw. Should we give more autonomy to the involvement? We also know that the civil society is a very strong voice in India. We have much stronger than anywhere else. And then how do we really reckon with this? Because Right to Education Act probably wouldn't have come if the civil societies had not really galvanized and then demanded for that. I think we need to really, why I am raising this is that India is at a stage in which we need to find a new framework for engaging with the private sector. We are expanding and then stabilizing our system not in the mid 20th century. We are doing at a time with globalization and privatization going apace. So at this juncture where whole economy, everything that we look at private as not private personal, but private as public. The common space, whether it is government managed or private. This is a new way of really looking in India, because it has become an exclusive domain. Private has become. It's an exclusive, in a way, exclusionary domain. It has become. I think we need to move away from this. I think I hope you will have time to really engage in some of these things. I'll skip this because this is also many people feel we have neglected early childhood education. Lots of studies that have been done in India and elsewhere have shown that 6 years may be too late for many children, because by the time they come, they have iron deficiency, nutritional deficiency and everything. They have attention deficit syndrome. Many of them will have developed that what you teach they will not be able to understand at all very often in the school, and therefore we need to really engage with them much earlier. And India has a huge problem of malnutrition. You know that, even if you don't accept the international figures of 47%, even if it is 35%, I don't think that we need to be happy with 35% of malnourished children amongst us. Which also brings me, therefore, if all these quality and equity problems are intertwined, I believe that we need to come up with a new definition of what is a good school. What is the image of a good school? We seem to have the image of a good school as something which produces good results. It is so much imprinted in our mind, because the middle class in this country values good performance at the end of it, because they know if they get the good marks, afterward don't bother, we have enough money, we can really send you anywhere. Very often many of them want either to go to the best of the college in the country, or to go abroad. It doesn't matter, if you don't get seat here, we will send you abroad. This is the kind of thing that is there. I think we need to move away. If you are talking of a universal school education in this country, which is equity and quality, which I said right in the beginning seem to be our vision, and then we swear by that, I think we need to have a different definition of good school, which embeds in it not only the quality definition, which embeds in it equity also. Non-discriminatory, non-exclusionary, inclusive principles should be embedded in the definition of a good school. Not really, it is an overlay on marks first, and then other things should not happen. We need to define good school in a different way, conceptualize a good school in a different way. This, I think, is very important for India, because I will skip this, I will come to this in a different way. Because I want to read this, you to read this, what is written here, because quality cannot be achieved by what we are doing today, like a ghettos. Schools in India are becoming sort of ghettos, because either you have a ghetto, a school for a ultra rich, schools for not so ultra rich but not so much, schools for not very rich, schools for middle class, schools for the poor and not so poor. We call it the budget schools, not so poor, but not really middle class even. We call them budget schools. And then the schools for which people go, some children go where nothing happens, nobody bothers about them. We seem to have a sort of ghettoization that is happening, and they are all class related, in many cases also caste related. Like in the villages where you have come up with the EGS centers, I do not know how many of you are familiar, you will find that there is one small school in the scheduled caste basti and a big school in the main village. I do not know how many of you travel to rural areas to see some of these things. I wish you do it in order to understand the Indian school setting. And so this ghettoization of schools is not going to be very helpful in achieving our goal of quantitative expansion with equity and excellence that we seem to swear by. That is where we need to really go. I don't want to really end this part with such a pessimistic feeling. What has happened during the last 20 years, despite all these things that are happening, one thing that's the biggest thing is actually there's a huge sense of participation that is there. Everyone wants to participate. There are more people. Today morning only I was meeting a group of people from the corporate sector. They want to do in school education something. so everyone, those who seek education, that the people, those who provide education, those who promote education, all of them seem to be interested in education. This is not a small thing. So there is so much of groundswell in favor of education. You would have never heard so many things being talked about education in the media as you do today. Earlier it would have never happened. So there is a different thing. So I want to feel that I still, therefore I'm quite optimistic that maybe we can really make a turnaround in what we have. This is the right time to really make the turnaround if you want to do. There's also another thing. There is also a demographic dividend. I'm not talking so much about the youth bulge or any such thing. I'm talking about the cohort entering primary schools in this country is falling year after year, in fact. What we thought in 2005, looking at the demographic projection for school, elementary school age children, was that it is going to increase from 18.9 crores to something like 20.8 crore or 21.2 crores. But actually when we made the correction, and now with the 2011 census, what we are doing, what we are looking at is that it is going to come down to something like 18 crores. In other words, the fall is fairly sharp, particularly in some of the states. Even in the states like UP and Bihar, the demographic change is taking place. The rate of growth of population is falling, although it is not at a stage that the cohort entering primary school is falling. But it's already happening in Kerala. In fact, it is it has reached the stabilization phase, as they say in demography, and it's much smaller. There are too many teachers, in fact, for the children that they have, and so is the case. It is happening in Tamil Nadu and southern part of Karnataka, some parts of Andhra Pradesh. In several places, it is happening that the cohort entering. That means that the demand for school places is shrinking in many parts of India. They are not increasing, as one would have thought, and this is something very positive. So we can be more hopeful that we can devote much more money to quality education, provided we use it properly, which is another big issue that we have. Also, the question is that we have created during the last 2 decades, because of the increased activity in the area of school education, lot of expertise has come, which did not expect. I am sure that, if you had thought of a resource person 20 years ago who could talk, very rarely teacher educators ever talked of primary education and the departments of education, in fact, in the universities. Today, there are more and more people talking about elementary education. There is more expertise in school education itself that has come because of the intense activity that we have engaged in during this. I will skip all of them. I'm sure that you will be engaging in other sessions also. Teacher education can only bask in the reflected glory of a good school education system, because we are a second order people. We are not the primary order people. Schools work well in a country. Teacher education can also really claim the glory of a good school education system. If the school education system is not good, I don't think we can really progress. Similarly, can a teacher education program be better if the college education is not good? Less likely. This is what the CTET, the teacher eligibility test, shows, that people go to colleges and then they don't learn anything, even they have passed the BSc, MSc, but they do not know the subject. Teacher education, can it really rectify? So the expectation from teacher education is enormous, because they are the finished products coming out of the teacher education. But I always feel that the schools and colleges determine what teacher education is about. I am saying this because I will come to later on why I am making this issue. There are many about the leadership and others. I will skip all these things. You can ask questions. We can discuss a few things. I want to share with you 6 propositions which I consider we should really look at if you want to I leave a printout you can use. I want to share, what do we do in order to improve quality of teacher education in this country? I want to say that we need to do 6 things. In general, teacher education, colleges are sort of black boxes for the country, for the general people. No, I have also been a teacher educator. People ask, what do you do in teacher training college? No, we prepare teachers. You prepare teachers? because they all look at the teachers. This is what, it's not unusual. Teacher training is never understood by, in general, anywhere in the world. When you say you teach education, people ask, yeah, education, but what subject? They ask you. Honestly, I'm not joking. People have asked me. I went to get my visa from British High Commission here. They called me for the interview. I told them, where are you teaching? I said that I teach. I said, what is your profession? I said, I teach. And they said that, what do you teach? I said, education. She said, yeah, education, but tell me the subject. I said, no, education is the subject. I said, no, tell me, what is the subject? You teach physics, chemistry? But then I had to tell her, no, I teach educational planning, how to plan education. That's what I teach in a university. She was not satisfied, but anyway, she gave me the visa, of course. That's a different issue. But I am not, this story I am telling, because education in general is a subject which is not fully understood, except for the people who are in your own vicinity, belong to your community. But if you say teacher training are sort of black boxes, and not because people don't understand, because we don't allow people to enter into us. We are very closed organisms, in fact. We never really allow other people to enter and understand. If I tell, for instance, no, we know we do practice teaching also, we do this also, we do that also. You tell anybody, the teacher education is such an ideal thing, everything possible, perfect, it is happening. Nobody accepts. So as a result, the credibility of teacher education is so low. If you want people to accept, you have to really show what you are. So teacher training suffers from this, more so in India, because we have 13,000 teacher training institutions in this country. 13,000 teacher training institutions in this country we have. And about 85 to 90% are in private sector. I don't know how many of you are from private college. Are you also private colleges, any of you? No. Nobody? Then you will never understand what is reality of teacher education, honestly I tell you, because reality of education is 85 to 90% in private sector. So, but we don't really make people understand and appreciate what we are doing. In other words, I believe that, in general, teacher education sector in India and elsewhere also probably will benefit much more if we become more friendly to people. Because who becomes a teacher, everyone wants to know. Who becomes a teacher is the one who comes through the teacher training institution. But people want to know, who is this teacher? How do they become teachers? In fact, why I cannot? Today morning in another group school, why do they choose? Because the schools also develop their own personality and an identity. This is what you teach to the school. The teachers, the schools should develop their own personality and they should have their own identity. You should really, some schools are known for better social and then sports, and then some schools are better known for extracurricular. You develop your own individual identity as to what you are doing. Should teacher education institution also have something like this? If you want to be recognized, if you don't want to be the run-of-the-mill standardized institutions which do or do not do, which do everything every other person does, or every other institution does, or doesn't do because others also don't do. Probably that may be truer, in fact. It's very important, therefore, to develop an identity of its own. How does an identity comes? I think we need to engage in planning, development planning for every institution. You may be a government institution, but do we really think about our own institution, reflect on our institution? I'm sure that you will have opportunity during the next 15 days or perhaps more so when you go to Arizona to really reflect on these things about your own institution. I am sure it is part of the program. I saw that people thinking about their own institutions and developing. I hope you will do that. Next three things, then I will stop. We should also therefore develop, in my view, if you want to do all these things, teacher education today, there is a NAC which talks about higher education. They also do some sort of, some of the teacher education institutions are involved. But we have been telling that we need to develop an independent system, set of parameters for evaluating teacher education institutions. We have no parameters, we have no yardsticks to really look at what is a good teacher education institution at all. We have not invested in this issue in this country at all. We need to develop what is a good teacher education institution, how to carry out evaluation of institution in a contextualized fashion. Very important, because a teacher training institute, a primary teacher training institute located in a remote tribal area, cannot be seen in the same way as a elementary teacher education institution working in an urban setting. So how exactly we develop that kind of a method and an approach for evaluating institutions, and how to think of improving the improvement measures to be generated through that evaluation. This is another thing that I want to say. Fourth, I think we have also forgotten, this is a good opportunity for the first time Government of India is doing. I am very happy in a big way that is being done, but it's not that everybody will go to Arizona only and everybody will have to go to somewhere else to really learn all these things. What I am saying is that India has to really put together a good program of what I would say professional development of teacher educators, because teacher educators, just as we teach, we all tell, we quote Rabindranath Tagore very often to say that who is a good teacher is the teacher who is, what is that, the candle which is not burning cannot really light another candle, as they say. So we always quote this in as teacher educators to our trainees, but how can a teacher educator who is not growing and professionally developing be a good teacher educator? But what happens to our teacher educators? I think I have gone to so many diets and all, even secondary teacher education institutions, there is no library. And the library, if it is there, there are no books. If there are books, very often to my shock, I find that they are all only guide books in the library. I am telling you, there are exceptions. I don't say all institutions are like this. I have seen very good exceptional teacher training institutions also. I should say that very good private, even private, exceptionally good teacher training institutions also have seen. But by and large, government institutions, wherever I have gone, except for a few, I found in most of them there is no library. And there is no learning that happens for the teacher educators, and the books that are there are not worth reading at all, and the books that are there are referred to by the students because that is where the questions come from, and because the question papers are solved in those guide books that are kept there. What a situation that we have come to in teacher education, and all because our teacher educators are not professionally developing themselves. They are stagnating. If you have a stagnant pool of teacher educators, I don't think quality of teacher education can improve. And how to really transform this stagnant pool into a vibrant one, I think is another biggest challenge. I consider this is another proposition. If you want to really do, you have to very seriously engage in it. Maybe this is the beginning. I hope government will think more seriously, but I don't think the government can solve all the problem. We need to do much more of self introspection. I don't think as a community of teacher educators we have been engaging in any introspection to really see what can be done in that direction. Last I want to say is that if you want to be good quality teacher education that you are talking, you have to lead from the front for transforming the school system by engaging directly with schools. Biggest problem of teacher education system in this country, the teacher education is doubly alienated from the reality. Number one, you don't go to the school and you don't teach what is relevant to the school in theory, because our books are, we don't have books, we don't really study, we are not latest, we talk something old because there is the curriculums don't get revised in most of the time, and this is what we are doing. And then we are also distanced from the ground reality of the schools invariably, except when practice teaching happens. In a fleeting visit, teacher educators go. These days, practice teaching, many of them, I don't say you are all take it very seriously, I know that, but very often the practice teaching is that in 2 hours you will have seen 6 classes in this fashion. We don't really take this very seriously. About school reality is the one that has to be imbibed. But this requires, in my view, why I am saying this is that we need to engage with transformation of schools. If you don't lead from the front, I don't think you can really gain any credibility from the school system. They are not going to really value you. If you cannot tell them, most often what is said about teacher educators, when you give, you as a resource person, when you go in service teacher training, they all appreciate you in front of you, but they will all tell you afterwards it was very good, but it doesn't work. Honestly, I'm telling you, I was visiting a few years ago a school, and I went to a school headmaster. You know, it is in Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, I don't know whether there is anybody from UP here. In UP, the classes are conducted outside, whether even there is a building. Whether it is summer or winter, I have never understood what is the logic there. They sit outside and then conduct. So I went to the head teacher who was teaching there, and then it was a fairly big school, and he was teaching the same way. It was second or third grade, and he was teaching in the, you know, in the primary school they teach by rote memory. You say something and then all children will repeat in chorus. So he was teaching like this. Then I asked this head teacher, haven't you gone to training? Do you all understand Hindi? हाँ, आपको कुछ ट्रेनिंग नहीं मिला? ये सभी शिशु केंद्रित शिक्षा के बारे में बोलते हैं, आपको ट्रेनिंग नहीं मिला? साहब ट्रेनिंग मिल गया साहब. He was very happy when I asked about training, because nobody had asked him probably. He was very happy. Yes, I got the training. Right when the project started, I got the training. Afterwards, I said that, then why are you not using any of those methods? He was very silent. He didn't say anything to me. I stood for a while. I didn't want to embarrass. Then I went out. I saw other classes and all. I came back to him. I asked him that, why you are not teaching anything? He probably your training was not good, isn't it? I provoked him. He said, no sir, training was very good. I said, why do you say training was very good? It even perplexes me more. He said, sir, I will tell you how the training happened. I said, tell me. He said, sir, it was for those days, I think 10 days it used to be. And he said, sir, in that, no, 21 days, 21 days. He said that it was very good. For 7 days or so, the resource persons actually taught us, very good resource persons. They gave many new ideas and all. I should say they were the best resource person there. Afterwards, next for a few days, sir, we had the opportunity to, really best part was that we had opportunity to prepare learning material ourselves. And that was very good. Not only that, sir, we were 42 people. 40-42 लोग थे. सबको तो चांस नहीं मिलता है, लेकिन मुझे मिला, मुझे पढ़ाने के लिए भी चांस मिला. I was made to teach also. Sir, it was really very good. That I prepared the material, I taught, and then it was a very good experience. We learned so much. It was really very good. He said all these things. I said that it perplexes me more. When you say it was so good, why are you not adopting here in your school? It was quiet for a while. Then he said, sir, I also thought the same thing. When I did there, I also thought the same thing. But when I came back, sir, school जैसे था वैसा ही था. मैंने कोशिश की मेरे साथियों के साथ इनको भी बताऊं और कुछ नए चीज़ लाऊं स्कूल में. मैंने कोशिश की, लेकिन सर कुछ जचा नहीं. Whatever he meant, sir, it didn't work. I tried to tell my colleagues also, but the school was the same. Sir, it looked very nice to be able to understand what it is to teach in a contextualized fashion in a school, in the condition in which the actual transaction has to happen, and in the direction in which you want it to happen. Otherwise, they will be teaching the same thing in the same way. Then people will say that, what are you learning in the training college, or what did you learn in the in-service teacher training program? And he can say that it was very good, but if you are not translating, what is the use? I think it's, you know, this link between the reality and how you want to do, and you, that's why I say that you have to lead from the front. Then only it will happen. This doesn't mean that there are no good teachers. This is a wrong thing to say that there are no good teachers, there are no good schools. I will end by narrating, I have narrated this in many other occasions also. I will end by narrating a small experience, another experience that I had a few years ago. It is so much printed in my mind. I went to a very small school, in a village school, a very remote village, and I saw a teacher teaching there, very enthusiastic and very good. I really liked, because the children were fearless, because most of the time in the village schools, the children are frightened of the teacher. This is the reality. whether you like or not. How to transform, I think we have never applied our mind. That's the larger reality. But in this school, children are not frightened. They were making noise, and then they were coming to him and then showing, and then he was really going, talking to them and then helping them and all those things. So I really like that. I told the teacher that I really like the way you are teaching and all, but he didn't say anything. Then I asked him a question. मास्टर जी, आपके स्कूल में दूसरी टीचर नहीं है? Because every school teacher should have 2 teachers. So don't you have the second teacher? He didn't tell me anything. He didn't say anything. I persisted with that question. आपने कहा नहीं दूसरी टीचर नहीं है आपके स्कूल में? He said, सब है, लेकिन ऐसा ही है. लेकिन मैं हूँ ना, मैं पढ़ाता हूँ ना. He never complained. See, very interesting, you see. He never complained. He said, I am teaching. It's like this. He knows that there is a second teacher who doesn't come to the school, but he didn't complain about the teacher. मैं पढ़ा रहा हूँ ना. I am teaching. So yeah, I really, it was something, such a pleasant thing. But I heard this. Then after a while, he asked me, "Sab, मैं एक सवाल पूछूं आपसे?" Normally, when people go from Delhi, the people ask for this facility or complaint and other things, but he didn't do anything. What he said is that, "Sab, यहाँ तो कुछ नहीं मिलता." In that village, actually, it was a real story. In that village, you don't find anything other than the torn textbooks. No print material you will find, because there is no newspaper. Nothing is available in that school. It's a small village of about 30 children were there, and he said that to buy anything, I go once in 15 days to a nearby place, which is about 15-20 kilometers. That's where I go and buy all my requirements. Sir, whenever I go there, I also read newspaper. I am talking of a few years ago, my experience. I also read newspaper. I said, very good. He was not waiting for my appreciation. He said, sir, पिछली बार मैं गया था, तभी मैंने एक न्यूज़ आइटम पढ़ा कि अमेरिका ने एक अंतरिक्ष यान भेजा था. So let me tell you, he said that last time when I went to the place, when I saw in the newspaper, it was a Hindi newspaper, in that I read a small piece item which said that America had sent a spaceship, and then it met with an accident. हादसा हो गए वापस आते. It met with an accident while entering the earth again. Sir, I also read that there was an Indian woman on it. This is what he read. I said, yes. He said, sir, I want to teach all these things to my children. Who can help me? Where can I go? This is the question he asked. Think of the context. Think of the condition in which he is. We always do teacher bashing. I'm just trying to end with this. This is the question he asked. I said, I really felt so ashamed, I tell you, because I have no answer to this. Could I tell the teacher confidently that you go to the block resource center where there is a library, where there is a computer, where there is internet you can access? No. Cluster resource center? No. Could I tell diet to go? Not confident. Could I send somebody nearby to really send? No confidence. Where will this teacher go? What are we doing in the name of teacher education in this country? What have we created in the name of teacher education? We have all these resource center. A teacher who is interested, who wants to know more, if that person doesn't have access, if I cannot guide that person to go nearby and then get it, he is ready, he is volunteering to learn. We have such teachers also. That's the reality. So why are we not engaged in transforming schools, reaching out to such teachers who want to really learn more and teach differently in their school, transform their own school? There are people ready to transform their schools. They want some hand-holding. In my view, that is what, if teacher education's image has to change, if quality has to.
I think I can share on behalf of all of us that he has really touched some of the questions that we started with in the morning. Professor Govinda, in the morning we started in our introduction with people expressing what they expect to learn in their visit to ASU. And from that, we just before lunch we came round to this issue that we need to be more clearer about the questions that we take with us there. And I felt that his presentation really helped us in identifying a number of questions. Of course, now we'll have to continuously do an exercise to make them more sharper and articulate it ourselves. But we can have some. Yes. Professor Govinda will give us some time for some.
20 minutes.
Yeah, about 20 minutes for questions and discussion points.
A person of your experience and knowledge, I have two questions to ask. If you can guide me on all these issues which I keep on thinking most of the time. Most of our teacher education programs, not most, I think all teacher education programs which we have in our country, most of the time what they teach is very classical pedagogy, and some good teacher education program may teach maybe something different, like how to teach children add in 10 different ways, or how to teach language with the help of storytelling or puppet shows. But do we have any such teacher education program in our country which helps our teacher to become a critical thinker, which helps our teacher to become a self-learner, which helps our teacher to help children to construct their own knowledge, which helps our teacher to be engaged in continuous self-professional development? Why do our teacher education program does not aim at making or creating such teachers who can answer the real goals of education, and why only very few methodology of teaching is taught in our teacher education programs? This is my first question. And my second question is that when you started and you ended also, and that's very true also, that we cannot ensure quality in education without ensuring equality in our schools. That's very true. But how can we ensure equality when we have such big disparities in our society, such big disparity in financial status of the people? How can we ensure quality in education without ensuring some very few living standards of the people, without improving some basic standards of the people? How can we ensure and talk about quality in education? Thank you.
System of education, how can we talk of ensuring quality education? If we talk of ensuring quality education, on the other hand we have the multi-layered system of education.
No, about what you were asking about why our teacher education doesn't really do that, exactly is the question I think we need to ask ourselves. If we ask ourselves as teacher educators, probably we can really lead also our teachers to become reflective teachers. This what is reflective pedagogy is what you are talking about. But reflective pedagogy cannot be developed if we are ourselves not reflective pedagogues. First of all, we should become, no? The problem is with our teacher education is in some ways worse than school education. School at least will be engaging with the children over a period of long period.
Yes.
And therefore there is at least an opportunity of variety of teachers being exposed and variety of methods, and then the children they themselves can formulate their own way of learning and all. But whereas the colleges of education do not give any time. It's only 1 or 2 years, which is a very short time, which also admission takes away a lot of time, examination takes away a lot of time, and the result is that you don't really engage. Unless, that's the reason I am saying is that if you want to transform pedagogy in the school, you have to really engage in transforming the methods of teaching in your methods of teaching, not in the way it is being taught, the way we transact things in our own colleges of education also. I am sure that you will have an opportunity to see how it is being done elsewhere. When you go to Arizona, I am sure that you will get opportunity to see how it is being done and all. But finally, the answer lies within us, not elsewhere. Other people cannot tell us. So if these things are not happening. Second, I would also say that our curriculum is a big problem. The curriculum, whether it is done through our the state governments, which is the D.Ed curriculum, or because the exams are conducted by the state boards, or by universities, they hardly ever change, and they change over a very long period of time. And I think despite all these things, I want to say one thing. It is not that we are so helpless. It's always easy to put the blame on something else. But are we so helpless in our classrooms? Are we so helpless in our own colleges? I think we need to ask ourselves a question. It is we very often we pass off the things saying that system is like this, something else is like this, college is like this, our examination is like this, everything we say. But are we so helpless that there is no space at all? I believe that every one of us, particularly a teacher, we are also teachers, even though we call ourselves teacher educators, every teacher has a huge area of influence, circle of influence, what I call, and we never make use of it. We don't want to make use because it's also using your influence also makes you responsible. And so we don't make use of. I believe that it is not as helpless as that. But is there a model of such kind of an institution that you are asking? Mainstream, I am not very sure there are many models because of the rigid way we operate and then lack of interest that is there. But there are many other institutions which are working, which really engage in this kind of work. Like Digantar is a good example. Digantar people, the way they do teacher training. There is an institution called Muktangan in Mumbai, who train teachers for preschool level, but they do it in a very different way. There is an organization called Katha in Delhi, and they do teacher training for people. Not that they are able to give any certificate of the kind that you are able to give. But they are engaged with their teachers very, very differently than the way we look at it. It is not that there are no examples if we want to learn within our country, but finally, group of teacher educators who constitute a college, to say that we have no freedom, I think it is only we are escaping our responsibility. I think we do have some scope to change and become reflective and change the way we operate within our own institution. I do believe that it's possible, but largely, by and large, we don't really take interest in doing that, and we don't do that. It's true, when you have 10 teacher educators, it's possible that 2 of them won't want to cooperate with you, but I am sure that exist. Also, the school with so much of social inequality, which is in a way related to what was said the other question also. How do we really do it? I always believe, in a society, hierarchical society like India, bringing all children to school, making them sit together and learn, I think is very, very central. And I always feel that it is not just an education action, it is basically social action. I keep telling everybody, including administrators, that to some extent you should become an activist if you want to really change. And in particular, I consider a social educator's, teacher educator's role is definitely an activist role, because you want to change the people who come with certain kinds of attitudes. if you want to change people and their thinking, because teachers come from a particular social extraction. So they bring with them certain kinds of social attitudes, social belief systems, and that will impinge on the way they become teachers when they become. Now transforming them, changing them to believe in our values of equality and treating school as an inclusive space, not discriminating between able and differentially able children or between different social background from which they come. I think this is, we are asking for in a way a social change, in a mini social change in your own classroom. But you need to really do it in your own classroom. I know it doesn't happen very easily. There will be a lot of resistance, because just like children come home, and as parents, when we tell them no, this is wrong, they will tell that no, my teacher has told. But I tell you, this is a very important message to really take, that you can really influence. It doesn't go away from our mind. What is said in the classroom is something that's more meaningful than what is said outside, even at home. So you have an opportunity to really create that small revolution. Maybe these are not the words very much liked by many people, but I feel that you as an educationist, we don't want really some sort of a very sophisticated theoretical knowledge alone being given. Basically, teaching is more, the knowledge base for teaching is much more of crafts knowledge, not merely disciplinary knowledge. And giving what we do in our things about philosophy and sociology and everything we give from the books that are printed somewhere, and then from that we give, they are important, provided they are linked with what I call crafts knowledge, not just disciplinary knowledge. And that requires, you need to really become changing the people within your classroom, within your surrounding. Some people will change, not everybody will change, but that is always a struggle, because education in this country also has to be, if it is a public education system, also has the responsibility to go along with the kind of social change that has to happen. I'm not extolling that teachers are social change agents and all those things, those standard kind of phrases that are used. I'm not really want to say, but you need to ask yourself, when you ask this question, that's why I'm telling you that in the midst of all this social inequality and social hierarchy and all those things that are there, how do we create? Yeah, that is the challenge for us as social teacher educators. This is what I meant when I said you need to lead from the front in transforming schools, engage with the schools. That's where the real action happens, not in the teacher education institution. It is in the school the real action happens. So how many of us are ready to really engage with the school? Without engaging with the school and its transformation, how do we learn for ourselves? How do we really try for ourselves? How do we really transact in a convincing way for our teacher trainees in that? That is the challenge before us. As I said right in the beginning, when I said about the Indian condition and where we are, it's a huge challenge. Educating all children in our country and with equality, quality and equality is not a very easy task. It is a huge challenge. It's a struggle. It's a huge struggle that you have to engage in. But as a teacher educator, if you are not engaging in that struggle for transformation, we are not worth calling ourselves teacher educators, because we are producing teachers who are antithetical to change if you don't do that. And you have the responsibility of producing teachers who are antithetical to change that you want to bring about in your school. So that is the way I look at the role and responsibility of a teacher educator.
Sir, really, this would, we also think in similar direction, but can't some changes in the curriculum be brought which addresses all these issues and which trains teacher in this direction? I think pre-service training and in-service training, if all these things are incorporated, which make our teachers reflective teachers, which teaches them, which makes them passionate about their profession, which makes them eager.
Established by the quality of teacher that we place in a classroom. If we have partnerships with 180 diverse schools, okay, leading by the front, I hope, in some capacity. If the teachers we're putting in those schools are not of value to the principal, to the superintendent of those school systems, then the quality of our teachers' college plummets. Okay, and now we start talking about real market forces. If we can't bring students into our teachers' college based on the quality of our graduate, then we might as well close our doors.
Exactly.
Okay, so when a teacher candidate graduates from your diet and they go to look for a job, is the quality and reputation of that diet at risk in any sense?
You know, the way recruitment is done is not exactly college wise. College is very secondary. It's all recruitment is done, and a mass recruitment generally happens for teachers, where the identity from where you passed hardly matters. This is the reality in our country. Even the private institutions, I don't think they bother about which college you got your B.Ed and all, provided you have a degree. They may be bothered more about the first degree, the BA, BSc and MSc where you have done, but not so much about B.Ed per se. This is the reality. So we have practically made our teacher training as some sort of only a symbol of certification. Beyond that, it has not happened. But this is what I was telling, that the system as a whole, unfortunately, has to come to such a level that it's almost irrelevant. We need to really raise this level of teacher education by giving identity to individual institutions. Today it doesn't exist because the teacher recruitment doesn't happen based on which college you graduated from.
Okay, I mean, we can look at a variety of metrics of success for a teacher's college, but one that we take great pride in is that 100% of principals who have hired our teacher graduates would hire them again.
That's a good message that we should really gather and then build our institutions like that, probably.
Sir, what exactly the situation in most of the states in India is many states they are actually running deficit of trained teachers. So whosoever is produced and from whatever be the institution or whatever be the mode of his pre-service training, may be face-to-face or distance mode, is observed in the system, irrespective of his quality or irrespective of his efficiency. So that way it hardly matters that what is the quality of teacher that institutions are producing. This is one. However, this rather after 2010, when RT came, there is in most of the states this eligibility test is being conducted, and now teacher education institutions, they are now thinking, when large number of trainees they fail in the eligibility tests, now institutions they have started reflecting over the way they were producing teachers.
It's happening now. In fact, we are making an analysis of the CTET that I said in UPA to see which are all the institutions from where people are coming which are not producing good results, who are failing, who are passing. This is a reflection that is happening in the state now in terms of those teacher training colleges from where. Although it may not be the teacher training college alone, it may be the first degree, maybe the basic requirement, the colleges more than this. That's happening. But generally, there is not so much identity given to college of education, which it should. It should. Teachers' colleges should feel proud that, you know, everyone who goes from here, they are really successful people.
I mean, so again, one of the things that's closely watched is, particularly now in the United States, as we move to what we call high stakes testing, we are following the student achievement of specific teachers, okay? And then what's going to be closely watched is where those teachers came from. So we graduate teachers, they go in schools, and the principals and superintendents are watching the real impact on student achievement that those teachers can have against, let's say, a different, another university or another teachers' college's candidates. So again, there's a sort of pressure around quality maintenance, around quality improvement that's connected with the institution and into the schools that may be part of a continuous quality improvement loop here that might not be.
Yeah, some building that loop is very important, although it may be quite imperfect in the Indian context because of the kind of schools that the teachers teach. if they are so badly equipped, they would put the blame. Very often when we ask the teachers why are the children not learning, there is no facility, nothing is there in the school. Many times the teachers put that also. But I think this relationship building is very important. I fully agree.
Professor Govinda, I, on behalf of all the participants, would like to thank you for delivering a very interesting talk on various issues regarding the education scenario in India. Keeping all that you have talked about in our minds, I hope that when we return, we will be able to use our experience in the ASU to the best possible advantage for our teachers and their students respectively. Thank you.